Welcome to the NAIOP Solutions Series. My name is Sheila Vertino, and I'll be your host for today. As many of you know, the Solutions Series is a free member benefit for you as NAIOP members. These are little mini webinars. They typically run about 30 minutes or less, and the objective here is to just give you some quick ahas, some practical tips, pointers, something you might not have thought about that might make life just a little bit easier in these troubling business environments. We encourage you to help us drive the content for the topics for these programs. So give us some suggestions for what programs you'd like to hear when we resume in September. You'll get a survey at the end, and there's a place there where you can put in your suggestions. And if you know somebody who might be good to talk about the topic, put that in there too. We'd really like to hear from you. Today, I'd like to thank the Harvard Business School Real Estate Executive Education Programs. They are our sponsor, and tell you a little bit about them. These executive programs are designed to help seasoned and emerging leaders protect their assets and manage complex projects. In addition, participants will gain the skills they need to navigate global markets and capitalize on new opportunities. For more information, please visit their website at www.exed.hbs.edu. Okay, as you can see on the slide in front of you now, we mentioned about the Solution Series being good for those quick bursts of information, but some topics require more in-depth coverage, a more thoughtful look to cover the topic. And so for that, we have 90-minute webinars. These webinars are fully interactive. You can submit questions. You can talk live with the presenters during the webinar. The next full webinar, which is on the screen right now, takes place on Thursday, July 22nd, and we're very fortunate to have Tom Galley, who is going to be giving an overview of each of the FDIC's programs on the disposition of real estate secured loans. He'll talk about everything from the process and historical sales, current volume available, and the property types available. The cost of these full webinars is $65 for NAIOP members and $95 for non-members. To register, you just go to naiop.org/webinars. We'll get you right in there. Okay, and now we're ready to begin our program for today. We have an interview set up today, and doing the honors is John McDermott, Senior Vice President with Sperry Ness. John's real estate experience encompasses all facets of the business, including construction, development, brokerage, management, leasing, acquisitions, dispositions, and finance. John is a great asset to NAIOP, and we appreciate all of his insights and his just unfailing good humor. Our guest today is Dan Burrus, author of the bestseller book, Technotrends, and he's founder and CEO of Burrus Research Associates, Incorporated. Dan is one of the world's leading technology forecasters and business strategists. His research and consulting firm monitors global advancements in science and technology-driven trends to help clients better understand how technological, social, and business forces are converging to create enormous untapped opportunities. Sounds perfect for a NAIOP Solutions Series. And I want to welcome you, John and Dan, and thank you for being with us today. Gentlemen?
Thank you so much. This is John McDermott, and I want to thank Sandy and Sheila for being able to go through the entire NAIOP membership and find the least techno-savvy guy in the entire organization to moderate this with one of the best sources in the world, Dan Burrus. Dan, I do know, having not participated in the American Revolution, I'm not quite that old, but I do know that revolution is defined as a fundamental change in power or organizational structures that takes place in a fairly short period of time. And you've described two fronts in which we are having a technological revolution. And I'd love to hear you talk about that.
Yeah, I'd love to. Really important to realize that right now we're really shifting from a period of rapid change, which we all know well, to one that's even more rapid. I would call it a period of transformation. And a quick definition of that for everyone would be when I was a young guy and I wanted to listen to my music. I had a 33 1/3 spinning disc. It was on that. It was called an album, and there was one album per spinning disc. And I would listen to my Led Zeppelin and my Hendrix and Cream and all of those Crosby, Stills, Nash. You know my vintage. You can tell from that little selection there. And then years passed, and all of a sudden there was a technology change. I emphasize the word change here, that came about, and I could get now albums, one group, one album per smaller spinning disc. It was called a CD. And one of the benefits was it was not only just smaller, but I got rid of all the hits and all the pops and all of those things. And I went and repurchased all my old stuff as well as bought some new stuff. And it was great. Now, today, I have all of my music with me at all times. And that isn't and it's not just changed. It's transformed how I listen to music. Because it's with me on an airplane. It's with me everywhere. As where before that, I couldn't bring all my CDs with me. Well, in that same way, we're going to transform how we market, how we sell. We're going to transform how we educate. We're going to transform how we innovate. We're going to transform how we collaborate and how we communicate. In other words, it's a big deal. And to bring this around for today's presentation, I'd like to highlight two areas that are extremely important to understand that are happening right now, to use your word revolution, because it really is. One, we have a hardware revolution taking place right now. If we go back in time, the only way that you could use a computer was to have a mainframe and a terminal. Then all of a sudden, desktops got powerful enough that our main tool became a desktop. However, mainframes and terminals didn't go away. Then, at another point in time, laptops got powerful enough to become our main tool. And of course, desktops didn't go away, and neither did mainframes. See, the past doesn't go away, but our main tool changes. Well, today we have a fundamental shift taking place, and that is the power of the laptop is being put in the palm of your hand 24/7. It's called your smartphone. And that is a big deal because it's a communication device, and it is also an information device. It's a video device. It's an audio device. It's a video conferencing device. In other words, this is a major shift taking place right now. Secondly, there is the second revolution, and that is the software revolution. Again, at one point in time, everything was an enterprise, expensive system. Then all of a sudden, thanks to Bill Gates and other companies and Apple, we started getting packaged software for PCs. And, of course, that drove a revolution. And today we have a fundamental shift taking place right now, and that's the app revolution. That is software that is in the form of an application that you can download very quickly and easily from stores like the Apple Store. And it truly has been a revolution. For example, it's only been around for a couple of years, and there are currently 300,000 apps, different apps, just on the Apple Store alone, not to mention the Droid Store and the BlackBerry Store and so on. And not only that, but on the Apple Store, which is the largest, there have been over 5 billion downloads and counting. Matter of fact, to reach the last billion, it's just less than 30 days. So it is definitely not an evolution. We are talking revolution that is happening faster than we've ever seen ever before. And it will change how people buy and sell real estate of every type.
Well, Dan, how are you personally participating in this revolution today?
Well, I've started 5 companies up until this last summer, and the Burrus Research, the company I run now, I've been running for 26 years. I sold the other ones off before I started Burrus Research, and I had promised myself that I would not start any more new companies, but rather use Burrus Research as a tool to help other people and other companies and organizations thrive in the years, both in the present and in the future. However, with such an amazing revolution taking place, I couldn't help myself, and I started last summer a company developed applications or apps for smartphones, as well as smart pads. The first smart pad is an iPad, as well as smart TVs. You're just starting to see those now, but all of them will be driven by apps. And since apps, for example, the app-driven TV Right now on cable or on satellite, you've got hundreds of channels and nothing to watch. Why? Well, that's because you don't have apps helping you to personalize that TV. Because if you have an iPhone or a Droid right now, you personalized it by bringing software in the form of apps into that to create a user experience that is unique to you, solving the problems that you have. By the way, in launching the first 3 apps that we launched, Complete Rentals, which are all the apartments and condos and homes that are for rent in the nation. We started a second app called Complete Foreclosures, which is all the foreclosed homes in the nation. And the third one was called Complete Homes, which are just all of the regular homes that are for sale in the nation. And we launched those apps in February. And within the first week, we were the 17th most downloaded app of all the apps on the Apple Store, including free kids games. And we were rated the number 6th in business apps out of all the business apps in the Apple Store. And we were featured in Wall Street Journal and Fortune and Forbes within that first 7 days, and have since been in about 40 publications. So what we really did was start the beginning of what I think is a major change in how people get their information.
Dan, what were the major lessons that you learned in those first 3 applications that you participated in?
Well, one of the things is that I did a lot of research up front, spent a lot of time deciding what was the best way to go. And one of the things that I found in my research, and we're not talking commercial foreclosures at the moment, we'll talk residential foreclosures, but my research showed that there were 120 million searches a month for foreclosed homes, and there was no apps for it. And I thought, ha-ha, there is a window there. And so in other words, I saw some opportunity. And I also saw that in the homes area, there were apps already, but most of them were local real estate companies just putting up their local information. At the time, there wasn't anything national. And rentals, really, there was nothing for rentals. So again, doing your homework, always knowing that really getting the very best technology people to help you put your your software together, and then also coming up with we came up with a new revenue model, which was very different from past revenue models for apps, and it's proven to be extremely good. So doing your homework is really important. And I mean, I was hiring programmers that were, like one guy I hired had just graduated with a degree in engineering physics. He was an honors student, and in other words, I went high, and he was a great researcher and a programmer that was same kind of caliber. So I went high because I wanted to create really great programs and drive the revolution rather than follow it. By the way, one last little thing I think you'll get a kick out of, John, and for all of our listeners. The day I started the company, of course, we were in the worst recession we've been in since the 30s, so I thought, why not start a company? But the thing that was great is, just as I was starting it, I had identified about 100 different apps that I wanted to create. I was going to start with the real estate apps I mentioned to you. And at that day, there was an announcement on national news that if you're thinking of getting into the app business, forget it. It's too late. There are already too many. And, of course, I grinned and said, fantastic. I love hearing things like that. It'll keep the riffraff out. Because, they, in the late 1800s, they were going to close the patent office because everything had already been invented. So let's face it, we've got a long way to go. This is the beginning of a giant change curve. And construction sites and anyone that's building in the building industry is going to be using apps to communicate, collaborate, and coordinate not only with the customer but with all of the different people they have to work with. And in the residential area, I know our rentals app is just on fire, especially in places like New York and so on, as you might guess. So it is the beginning of a revolution.
You bet. And as you talk to the people on the call today, it's clear that there's developers and owners and people that are planning not only a year out, but 3 years out and 10 years out in some cases on their projects. And as real estate professionals, how do we prepare ourselves, our companies, and the products that we build to respond to this revolution in your mind?
All right. In the world that we're in today, there's an amazing amount of uncertainty. When are foreclosed homes going away? When are prices going to start going back up? When is it going to shift from being a jobless recovery to a jobs recovery? In other words, there's a lot of uncertainty. Now, here's what I want to share. Strategy based on uncertainty has fleeting rewards, and risk is high. Strategy based on certainty has low risk and usually high rewards. So what I want to do is ask myself, in a world where there's all of this uncertainty, what am I certain about? And one of the things that I'm very certain about is where technology is going. And let me just ask you a few things, John, so we can teach everybody. And you even said in the beginning you're not a main technology person. So let me just ask you some questions. Let's just take the iPhone, for example. Even if you don't have one, you can just give me your response. Do you think in the next version of the iPhone there will be a faster processor?
Absolutely.
And by the way, are you certain?
Absolutely.
Of course you are. All right, let me ask you another one. Do you think there will be more storage?
Yes.
Yeah, there you go. Perfect. By the way, everyone else listening is saying, yeah, for sure. Do you think that there will be increasing bandwidth and the ability to even stream more data?
No question, to the point of putting AT&T on its knees.
I know. As a matter of fact, Cisco and others are just putting out a new network for for all of those guys right now, and Cisco's competitors. But we'll talk about Cisco for a minute. And the new one they're putting in right now, every single man, woman, and child in China could send a high-definition video streaming wirelessly through the new system, and there would be no clogging, no problem. So the answer is the technology, excuse me, is already there to do it. So with those questions, do you think the new iPhone already has high-definition stream? Do you think the next version will have high-definition streaming video? And of course, the answer would be yes. Now, if those things are all happening, and by the way, you have never said in this conversation so far, I'm not sure. You said you're sure. And by the way, I'm sure too. And I've been doing it for 25 years, and one of the reasons I've been accurate is because I leave out the parts I can be wrong about. So if you have that taking place, and you're in the construction business, if you're in commercial real estate, residential, you know what? You better be paying attention to this, because it's not an if or maybe. It's the future for sure. I'm telling you, it's happening faster. Take a look at what's going on with the App Store, for example. It is a revolution that's happening so fast that what you want to do is start to begin to understand. And one of the things that you can do is start talking to some young people. For example, a lot of times in our companies, we have the people with the most experience making all the strategic decisions, but we don't talk to the young people enough. But they're the ones with most of the new knowledge. We need to get them involved with us. We need to have some conversations. As a matter of fact, there's a lot of family-owned businesses out there, and the young are kind of impatient and think the old don't get it, when in reality, if you're a little old, you have wisdom and experience, which the young don't have, but they have an open mindset, and their lack of experience can be a strength as well. Let's talk to them. As a matter of fact, in some cases, you may even want a techno-mentor. Techno-mentor is basically a kid. Get a kid to help you out. If you can't afford the high school kids, try elementary school. And let's begin the journey, because you don't want to be behind. In the old days, change was slow, and you didn't need to change that fast. As a matter of fact, you could keep doing what you were doing year after year after year with little change and be profitable. But in a world of transformational change that impacts everyone, including the people that buy your products, you can't afford to have that old mindset.
Boy, you are so right, and it reminds me of the scene in City Slickers when Billy Crystal was trying to explain recording on a VCR 2 channels that you weren't watching. So I do understand all that you've described, and I'm looking immediately for the techno person that can sit on the beanbag chair by my desk and tell me what this is all about. In the end here, what basic weapons do each of us need? What should we be doing today? And by the way, I bought my first BlackBerry last week.
Great.
So
well, I think, first of all, let me put out a thought for everyone out there. I believe that the iPad is a much bigger revolution than we all realize right now. And I believe in the field of real estate, both commercial, residential, the whole shooting match, I believe it's going to be a major tool. So in other words, whether you have a BlackBerry or a Verizon or whatever phone you've got, who cares? The iPad is an amazing tool because it's a different kind of computing tool. And what we're going to see is enterprise-level software. I know I'm developing it myself, and I know I'm not the only one, designed for verticals like real estate agents, like people that are dealing with construction sites and so on, that can work on this tablet. Because remember, with a laptop, you have to have a screen and open it up and sit down in a chair. But most of us are not sitting in chairs. We're out moving and we're talking. And with an iPad, you can put it down on a table and have a bunch of people stand around it. And then since no one's using a screen or a mouse, anyone can touch the screen and say, well, what if we move this here or do that there? Not only that, it's a phone, too. It's a free phone. You can build that into it. So it's a revolution. So I would say you need to be open to that revolution, realize it's coming fast. I would say you want to understand what's going on with apps, as well as some of the software that's using mobile websites. They call it WAP. Those are basically websites that can be displayed on a mobile device. Those are also very valid as well. And really ask ourselves, how can we transform how we communicate, how we collaborate, how we market, how we sell using these tools? And you know what? You're going to get some answers.
Well, Dan, that's outstanding. Obviously, Technotrends is on the list of books that I'll download to my Kindle. And I appreciate all that you bring to that and to NAIOP.
Well, one last resource I'll give you, if you want to go to burrus.com, BURRUS.com, I have you can access the blogs I write about this. You can access and download a lot of free resources. Any of the listeners can do this. And if anyone is interested in the apps that we've developed, just go to visionaryapps.com and take a look.
Great.
Well, gentlemen, that was a terrific presentation. I really want to thank you both for those insights. John, thank you for your courage there, for being our digital guinea pig, and Dan, thank you for sharing on a level that we could all understand. So this has been just terrific, and I think people do need to think about, what are we doing today that we need to evaluate all of the systems. I know at NAIOP we are doing a complete audit of all of our communications and our marketing to try and figure out how to take into account these new ways of distributing content to members. And as an aside, we're also looking at personalization so that we can give you really customized content and a customized NAIOP experience so each person gets exactly what they need and not any extraneous things they are not interested in. So that concludes this presentation. For any who would like to hear it again, the archive will be available by close of business today. And it's at naiop.org. On the front page, you'll see that big button that says Solution Series. Click on that, and you will see the archive for this. You can also find a link to all of the past programs, the past Solution Series programs there. They're all available in archive format, free to NAIOP members. The NAIOP Solution Series is now officially on hiatus for the summer. Our next program will take place on Wednesday, September 8th. So watch your email in August for information about that program, and we'll look forward to welcoming you back for the September 8th program. Meanwhile, again, if you have any topics you'd like us to cover, feel free to include them in the comments on your session evaluation form or just send us an email. Thank you all for attending the session. Thanks again to our presenters, and goodbye until September.